All right, everyone, welcome back to Unstuck, where every week me, your host Ethan, helps you get more unstuck in life, whether that's your relationships, your friendships, your career, or just anytime you're generally feeling stuck. I am here to help you. So, this week I'm talking about something that's been so highly requested, and it's not really necessarily like in my lane to talk about, but I feel like it is kind of an offshoot of feeling stuck sometimes, which I feel like a lot of people can resonate with. And a lot of people are going through this, which is feeling stuck when it comes to dating and feeling stuck when it comes to putting in so much effort, but not really getting the return that you want to see on the effort you're putting into dating. And I have a lot of single friends that are telling me this. And this has been so highly requested of me to talk about since I started my podcast. So this week I'm going to break it down for you. And I just want to start this off with a precursor and say that I understand the struggle. Like, I hear the struggle and the pain, and I know how much effort goes into dating, especially if you're a girl, right? I truly get it. And a lot of the times, you're doing 90% of the things right. And maybe it's just the 10% that needs a little tweak or a little adjustment. Go on a ton of first dates, but they never make it to the second date because they feel like something's off. And a lot of the times this has to do with like you instead of the other person. And I know it's tough to hear, but I just want to lay it out for you and give you the facts and the tools in terms of what I think helps and how you can approach dating in a new, fresh way to help you get unstuck in this manner. So, the reasons for feeling stuck when you're dating are parallel to the reasons you feel stuck in other areas of your life. It's this feeling of wanting to make progress and wanting to have that forward movement in your life, but not knowing where to put that energy, not knowing where to take action or where to improve certain things. So, I'm going to tell you exactly where to put that energy later in this episode. A lot of the times we feel stuck when we're dating because we approach dating in the same way. And while the person that we date might change, the way we're approaching it, if that isn't changing and we're approaching dating in the exact same way every week or every time we go on a date and we're getting the same results, that becomes an energy drain, right? That is what's sucking your energy, is putting yourself out there repeatedly and not making adjustments along the way, just doing the same thing every time you go on a date and expecting and hoping for a different result. Well, I'm here to tell you that while there is a place for hope and faith and wanting a better future, hope is not a strategy, right? It's a feeling that you embrace, but we actually need to be tactical about this. And I'll lay out exactly what you can do to approach dating in a different way to get a different result. And if you do any of these, just know that it's totally normal. You're not alone, but I'm going to tell you how to address all of them. And a lot of the times, the number one reason I see people feeling stuck in dating is that they're socially comparing themselves to other people. They're looking at other people that are in relationships, or looking at other people that are going on like 10 dates a week, or that are always on Hinge, or that have like a ton of dating app activity, and they compare themselves. And that immediately stops you in your tracks. That literally reduces all of your self confidence to rubble, and it makes you not want to date anymore. And it also adds to this experience of self doubt, which plays into the energy that you're bringing to the table when you're dating. And unfortunately, like, that is also a down bar, and that's also working against you whenever you're dating. And perhaps the most common reason that you feel stuck dating, and this is certainly true for me and when I was single, and it has to do with expectations and placing unrealistic expectations onto other people. What do I mean by this? Well, I was always somebody who was a hopeless romantic, and I thought, oh, whenever I meet my person, I'm just going to go on one date and we're going to have instant chemistry. We're going to fall in love. And then there's not going to be any issues after that. And it's done and dusted. And then we'll move in and get married in like 6 months. Well, I'm here to unfortunately break the news that that rarely happens. And a lot of the times as humans, we tend to like index and bias towards extreme anecdotes and extreme outliers of things. And for me, like, I always heard these stories of people falling in love after the first date, moving in 3 months, proposing, and just like having a happy life and living happily ever after. But the reality is that's like the 1% of relationships. If you actually take a step back and look at like the median or the mean of all the dates that people are going on, this isn't happening, right? It's kind of misplaced to think that you can know somebody well enough after one date to fall in love with them. And even if you think about it, like, you don't want to do that because you don't know this person. You don't know what they're capable of, right? Like, you need the reps and the repetition of seeing how they act in certain situations to understand if they're going to fit into your life, right? Chemistry isn't the only thing that goes into a relationship that works. So now that we know the reasons that you can feel stuck when it comes to dating, I want to go into some of the approaches and adjustments you can make in terms of yourself, your day to day activities, your perspective, and also what to actually do on the dates whenever you're there to get different results. So I'm going to lay out all of the strategies that can help you get unstuck in dating. But before I do that, I want to go into just some precursors. So, number one, you have to realize that we as humans are creatures of habit. And a lot of the times, dating and when it comes to putting yourself out there, it can feel very vulnerable. And because of this, we resort to old patterns that live in our subconscious, right? We're putting ourselves out there. So, all of our defenses and all of our baggage and all of our subconscious comes out to protect us, to protect like the innermost part of us that's being put up for judgment by another person. And romantically, especially, it's very challenging. So just know that there are things working against you that, in terms of your subconscious, that literally create patterns that you continue to implement whenever you're dating. So, what we need to do is actually address those things. And I'll tell you how to do that in a second. But just recognizing that you're approaching dating in the same way every time you go on a date and expecting different results is the first step to doing the work in order to get like unstuck when it comes to going on dates. So the other precursor to the strategies that I'm going to tell you is that there's one thing in particular that you absolutely must accomplish and you must do before you try and go out and have successful dates and get a relationship. And that's that you need to start trusting yourself. The foundation of trusting yourself is what will make you have successful dates. And the reason I say this is because self trust is actually the gateway into knowing what you want. And until you know what you want, you're letting other people dictate the outcomes of your dates for you. So once you can get to a place where you trust yourself enough to know that A, B, C, and D are going to make me happy, and that's what I'm looking for in a person, then you're going to keep having dates that are confusing, or like you're going to get mixed messages. You're not really going to know how, like, where you stand with this person. So I just want to like lay that out, that in order to fully embrace this new era of dating that I'm going to set you on, you have to be able to like take a step back and learn how to truly trust yourself. So the way that you can start improving this concept of self-trust, and I'm telling you this because you need to work on this before we can get into like the actual strategies of improving your dating life. So whenever you can work on your self trust, a lot of things start happening, right? Like you decide what you want, you build self esteem, and you ultimately like trust yourself to make judgments in the moment that are tied to your subconscious and your intuition. So the way that you get more in touch with your self trust is through self compassion, right? Really lean into the fact that to you in the past weren't your fault, and understanding that and accepting that and just like giving yourself grace is a big first step to building self-trust. Other things that you can do are focusing on activities that you deeply enjoy, so starting new hobbies around things that you actually care about. For instance, taking a workout class, a new type of workout class that helps you build a skill. I'll give you an example. Whenever I was feeling like the worst about myself a few years ago, I started boxing, and I was deeply fascinated with it because I was like, oh, I don't know how to defend myself. Maybe this will help me build some confidence if I can like learn how to throw a punch. And when I started taking the classes, I actually loved it. And I started obsessing over it. And I was like, when can I get in that gym again? When can I box again? And like that helped me build a lot of confidence and ultimately wound up helping me build my self trust. So adding things into your routine and experiencing new things that you're deeply interested in, new hobbies, and leaning into those helps you build confidence, which helps you build trust. That goes hand in hand with expanding your knowledge, right? An activity or like a new subject matter or a new area of learning, take the time to like increase your knowledge. Because this way, whenever you increase your knowledge, you like increase the things that you're interested in and you increase your learnings, you have more to talk about inherently, right? How many dates have you been on where you guys don't really find any common ground and you both like aren't really, you guys give up anything or like start a new conversation about something and it just gets awkward and you just try to have banter and like nothing really happens? It's because like neither of you know how to drive the conversation forward. So a lot of this process comes so a lot of this process comes down to like arming yourself with enough information to like make informed conversation or to have an informed conversation about things. And whenever you're able to like learn new subjects or learn new skills you just are inherently more interesting and you're working on yourself to a dating scenario. So now that we've actually started working on this concept of self trust and we have that precursor set in motion and we have that baseline set, there are two strategies that you're going to start taking whenever it comes to dating. The first one is something that you can do to work on yourself. And the second is something that you can actually do during dates to have better outcomes. So the first one is improving your self esteem. So if you imagine your self esteem at any given point, it's like a cup. And that cup can be either a quarter full, half full, or completely full at any given point in time. And we've all gone through this, right? There's cycles where we like get down on ourselves and our self esteem drops and we don't really know like how to get ourselves out of that. It's an ever changing line in that cup of self esteem. So, what we're going to do is like teach you activities to start pouring into that cup to keep your baseline level of self esteem higher than what it previously was. And the way you do that is by a few different things. I'm going to lay these out for you in a very simple way. So, number one, first and foremost, and this is from personal experience, is working on your self care. What do I mean by this? Improve your hygiene, have a glow up, start cleaning your apartment more regularly, start tidying up more regularly, keep your car clean. Like, just do all of these things to let yourself know that you respect yourself. So, whenever you live in like squalor and your house is messy and you don't wash your hair that often or like you don't wash your skin every day, like that sends a message to yourself subconsciously that you don't deserve the respect for yourself, like your body doesn't deserve your respect. So adding in a routine for all of these things to take care of yourself and just improve on the life that you're living and how you operate in the world builds your self-respect, which ultimately is the number one thing that you can start doing to pour more into your self-esteem cup. The next thing is something that took me so long to learn, but it was like such an unlock whenever I learned this. But what you can do next is start celebrating really small wins. And what I mean by that is literally keep a journal with you throughout the day where you write down small accomplishments. So this can be literally as small as I woke up today and I made my bed. Write that down. I woke up today and I had a healthy breakfast. Write that down. I woke up today and I accomplished four things on my to do list before I left the house for the morning. Write it down. Write all of these small wins down. As adults, we get to define success. And I'm telling you right now, I'm giving you permission to define success in a very small way. So that way, you constantly are having wins throughout the day. And this sends a message to yourself at the deepest level like, hey, I'm winning at life. I have all of these reps under my belt and I'm actually accomplishing things. And in the grand scheme of things, these start building up. And then you start having more and more wins because your body and your mind are geared towards winning. The next tip is to surround yourself with people that inspire you. And I know this is so cliche and I hate to say it, but you are the product of the five people you surround yourself with. And if you know that and you truly internalize that and you accept it, look at the five people closest to you. What are they doing? Do they have successful careers? Are they confident about themselves? Do they have successful dating lives? Do they have a lot going on in their life or do they have nothing going on in their life? Really take time to analyze that and not like don't be an asshole about it. Just truly like internalize it, take that information and just ask yourself like am I okay with being that type of person for the rest of my life? If the answer is yes, maybe it's time to turn off this podcast. I don't know. But if the answer is no, then what you can do is like start adding more people into your circle and start shifting some of your time away from like the former and shift it towards the latter, which is people that inspire you. You want is to surround yourself with people that talk about themselves positively, are fascinated with the world, are subject matter experts in things, have things going on in their lives that are impressive because whenever you do that, it automatically makes your brain and the mirror neurons that you have in your mind, it makes you want to copy them. It makes you want to become them. So this is the easiest hack, right? Just surround yourself with people that inspire you and automatically your self-esteem will start leveling up. And the last thing that I want to talk about in terms of self esteem is doing things that are outside of your comfort zone. And I know this is another piece of cliche advice, but I'll tell you why it's important. So whenever you do something that is outside of your comfort zone and you literally tell your mind that, hey, I'm capable of doing new things, I'm capable of doing hard things, it tells your body that it's okay to seek out new things and it's okay to do new things because you're capable and you'll figure it out. And that automatically builds your self image and it actually helps you fill your self esteem cup even more. So, a few ways to do this are getting comfortable being alone in public. I know for me, for the longest time, I was always scared of going out to dinner by myself. I was like, what if someone I know sees me eating alone at a bar? Turns out nobody cares. Like truly nobody cares. But if you actually do care about this and it's a mental block and you can't get over it, I have an amazing tip for you. What you're going to do is go to the bar alone and have your dinner, have your meal, but go knowing this fact. If you see someone you know and they come and talk to you and you start to feel embarrassed, just tell them, like, oh, hey, I'm meeting some of my friends here later. I just came here like 30 minutes early to grab a drink. So that way it gives you an excuse if you're not feeling like super confident about being there alone. And just having that in your back pocket will make you feel more confident and it'll give you the courage to actually go out and do this thing. So I have a friend that's actually been super successful at this. She always had a mental block around it and she started going out to bars and restaurants by herself. And she's met so many people this way. And honestly, it's been the biggest unlock for her. And she doesn't even use the dating apps anymore because she literally thinks that this is the best way to meet people now that works for her. So this can lead to like different end results. But what we're aiming for here is just like challenging yourself to get out of your comfort zone and telling yourself that it's okay to try new things, giving yourself the permission to try new things. So the second strategy, once you feel like your self-esteem cup is in a good place, you're really feeling good about dating, but you actually want to know how you can change your approach to the dates themselves, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. There's a few things, they're really easy to implement, and I want you to try these on your next date. And I promise you, you'll get different results. Because remember, a lot of the times, whenever we're stuck when it comes to dating, we just need some small tweaks. And I'm going to lay those out for you because I think they're really helpful. They helped me back when I was going on first dates. And honestly, they helped me get a relationship and get a boyfriend. So I just want to lay these out for you. And a lot of them are so easy, I promise you. So the first thing you're going to do before going on a date is checking in with yourself. How is your energy that day? Really, really sit down with yourself, do a body scan, do a meditation, like sit down and say, like, how is my energy today? And usually when it comes to dating, there are like two paths of where the energy can go. One is I'm excited about this date. Like I can't wait to put myself out there. I can't wait to meet somebody new. I'm just gonna have a fun night. The other type of energy that you can have when it comes to dating is I want this person to like me. I want to get a relationship and I'm feeling like I really want to have a successful date. If you approach it with that kind of energy, the latter of that, it comes across desperate, unfortunately. And even if you mean well and your end goal is like a relationship and you approach the date from that angle, people can always tell. It's innate in us as humans to sense whenever someone is desperate for something from us. And it's off putting. It really is. So, what you're going to do before you go on a date is check and see which way is my energy leaning? Am I leaning more towards excitement about the date or am I leaning more towards, man, I just want this person to like me. I just want a relationship. If it's the latter, nothing's wrong with that. All you have to do is just sit down, meditate, and really tap into the feeling of like what it would feel like just to have a good time and just focus on that, breathe into it, and just make a small adjustment to get your energy in order and correct before you go on the date. This will make a world of difference. And the next tip honestly blew my mind when I heard it. And the first time I did this on a date, I immediately had success. Like we had so much chemistry initially and we went on like 3 more dates and it didn't wind up working out, but this helped me get over the first date hurdle and helped us start building something. So this one is so important and like honestly so key. So a lot of the times when we go on dates, we tend to yap a lot because we're nervous and we want to talk about ourselves and we want to like show off about ourselves and we want to let the other person know that we're worthy of going on a date with. But what you're going to do is next time you go on a date, do not do this. Like, do not just go to talk about yourself. What you're going to do is what's called active listening. And I know it sounds like you're back in preschool and I'm your preschool teacher telling you to listen, but there's a difference between listening and active listening. When you're listening, you're just listening to like come up with your next response. You're just trying to find a jumping off point of what they're saying to like steer the conversation back in a direction that you know how to talk about. And a lot of times that winds up just being about ourselves. But whenever you're actively listening, what you're doing is you're not thinking about what you're going to say next. You're truly just trying to absorb what that person is saying and understand them on a really deep level. Like, really, really listen to them. And whenever you do this, your body language automatically lets them know that you're interested. It makes them feel special. You come across as charming. You really just want to know like what they're saying. And I know a lot of times people feel nervous about like, okay, well, if I do that, then I'm going to lose focus on what I'm going to say next. And then there's going to be an awkward pause as I think of what to say next. No, not the case. I know it's what you think might happen, but whenever you actively listen, you automatically come up with the next response. And trust me on this, whenever your goal is to understand what that person is saying, you automatically know what to say because your goal is the same. You're trying to understand them. So if you're trying to understand them, you're always going to have a follow up question. You really want to understand what they're saying and like relate to them. So if you definitely like take the time to understand what they're saying and like actively listen and not just listen to respond, like ask like, what did you mean by that? Or like, how did that experience change you? Or how'd that shape you? It shows that you're genuinely interested and it gives them a way to talk about the situation or like themselves in a deeper manner. And the next tip that I want to share is honestly really easy to do. What you're going to do is whenever it's your turn to talk about something about yourself, someone asks you like what you're interested in. What you're going to do is literally just start talking about one of your passions, whether that's writing or biking or pickleball or like going to the movies, whatever it is, like just start talking about it because naturally you'll come across as extremely interested in this subject and you'll light up and it's very attractive whenever you talk about things that you're deeply interested in. And then what you're going to do whenever you start explaining the passion to them is you're going to bring them in on it. So if you say like, "Oh my gosh, I just can't tell you enough how much I love biking. It is what I live for. Like every weekend I wake up with a smile on my face at 6 a.m. and I head out to the trails or I head out to the road to bike or whatever people do when they bike." What you're going to do is say, "Oh, and when we go biking, I can't wait to show you this specific road, or I can't wait to show you this specific trail that we can go on." Bring them in on the passion, and that shows that you have intent to like do something with them in the future. And if you can paint the picture, bringing them in on your dream or like your vision and have them as part of it, this is extremely effective. People love hearing this. And this is honestly like how I got a boyfriend. Whenever we went on our first date, I was talking about like investing in like properties and why I would love to have a house in like New York, California, Colorado, London. And I was like, "Oh yeah, like so whenever we invest in like our fifth property, where do you want it to be?" Right? It just like brings them in on the dream, brings them in on the passion and lays a future for you. It like literally makes them visualize a future and what that could look like. And it just helps get things moving. And the last thing I want to do is just give you an area of improvement or like give you something that you can work on. And there's a lot of YouTube videos around this. So what you're going to do is just Google like how to improve my storytelling, because whenever it's your turn to speak on a date, what you want to do is actually like tell a story, right? You don't just want to say like, "Oh yeah, I like dogs." That doesn't give anybody anything to work with. What you're going to do is like lay out a story of like why you like dogs. What about the dogs in your childhood? What did you love about them and how did that affect you as an adult? Like just lay out a story for someone. It gives them something to latch onto and it lets them know you better, because when you can explain the why behind something, it helps somebody understand you on a deeper level. So try to take at least one of these tips into your new date. By no means do you need to take all four of these into your next date and put so much pressure on yourself. Just focus on one. And honestly, if I had to pick, I would say active listening is the best one to focus on. Focus on one, just try it on your next date and see what happens. Because remember, a lot of the times you're already doing everything right. You're just missing one little piece of the equation. And honestly, one of these four things will plug in and be that like 10% that you're missing. And I promise you, it'll make dating so much more enjoyable and you'll get a better result out of it. So, all that to say, just remember that trusting yourself is the foundation to building self confidence. Knowing what you want is key because it helps you go into the dates understanding what it is exactly that you want. It's the foundation of making meaningful connections. Whenever you can work on your self trust and your self esteem, it puts you in a position where you're approaching dating not from a position of angst or anxiety, from a position of confidence. Whenever you start doubting yourself, it manifests in your dating experience and it's palpable to other people. Remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. You need to be the catalyst to change, and you need to be the catalyst to actually approach dating in a different manner so that you can actually get the different results that you want to see. But recognizing that you're in a cycle right now of repeating the same patterns and putting the same energy in and putting the same amount of effort in and day out when it comes to dating, but not getting the result that you want is the reason that you feel stuck, right? You're putting action in a misplaced place. You are putting action where it doesn't belong. What you need to do is focus this energy instead of going on the next date that you have tomorrow. Instead of doing that, take a step back, implement some of these strategies, refocus your energy, and approach it with a new perspective and see what happens. Because remember, like being stuck is wanting a result, but not knowing how to take action or not knowing what to do. And that's a very difficult place to be. And I totally understand it. I totally get it. All that you need to do is just start iterating, just try different things. And I promise you, you'll start getting different results. So, good luck out there. I know it's tough. I know it's a terrible job market, it's a terrible economy, it's a terrible dating market. I know it's rough, but trust me, like you will find your person. And even just knowing that can help you calm yourself and help you be more confident when it comes to meeting new people. So I really hope this helps and I believe in you and I can't wait to talk to you again next week. All right, bye everyone. So good luck out there. I know it's tough. I know it's a terrible job market, it's a terrible economy, it's a terrible dating market. I know it's rough, but trust me, like you will find your person. And even just knowing that